people get involved in your campaign. They say, you know what, I love this woman. I love what she's doing. She's fighting for us. This is John Villarreal reporting for Conservative New Media.
We're going to talk about a lot of things today. It's a hot day. It's 9/11. A lot of people want to remember this stuff. We've got protests going on. We've got memorials going on. We've got Vice President Biden speaking out there. President Obama's been doing his thing. I want to know what you guys think about this. What are your thoughts about this 9/11 situation? We've had a big couple weeks here. We've got people like Pam Geller down there, talking about the protesting in the quote-unquote Ground Zero Mosque. We have this guy that was going to burn the Qur'an over there in Florida. Now he isn't. He says he isn't. But then other people are talking about they're going to rip one up. They're going to destroy it. Everyone wants to get in the game. Is this just a PR stunt, or are Americans sick of what's going on here? I want to hear from you. But we also have to remember not only what happened in 9/11 and the 3,000 plus good Americans of all faiths, including Muslims, that died on that day in the Twin Towers, but also the 900 plus responders that have died since then, that went in there and tried to save people and have all kinds of sicknesses and things that happen about that. So I want to know, now that you've seen these things, because you've probably been watching Fox News, you've probably been watching some of the other news channels, and we see, because I caught myself, I was sitting at home preparing for the show, and I was thinking about this, and I saw the replay of the news broadcasts as they happen with the different news channels, and I'm like, wow. I mean, it kind of impacted me in a different way. I remember vividly. It's like one of those things, when Kennedy got shot or we went to the moon. Everyone knows where they were at. I remember waking up. I was in the borderline between Palo Alto and Mountain View, and I was working at a law firm at that time. And I was, I woke up and I saw these buildings, and I thought, like, this has to be, this can't be real. This has to be fake. And when the one building was hit, and then the other plane got hit, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like obviously a terrorist situation. And we saw President Bush there, and I remember my feelings at that time, so visceral, so emotional. But now seeing it again with all this stuff happening, I mean, it definitely is a visceral, it's definitely emotional, but it's almost taken on a different characteristic. And I'll get into that. But first, we already got these lines popping up here. I want to go to your calls. Let's talk to Steph in Chicago. Steph wants to talk about the mosque. Steph, what's going on?
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. Disturbed by this mosque, but I'd like to talk about it.
Well, what's going on with this mosque? Now, what do you feel about this? Now, you are right there in Obama's backyard, right? Now, what's your feeling about how this whole mosque, the quote-unquote Ground Zero Mosque, the Park 51 thing, the Islamic Center, they call it different things. What do you feel? How do you feel about that being a plan to be built there? And how do you feel about how President Obama has handled this in some of his comments?
Okay, first, I'm going to step back from Obama. First, my feeling, and mine, many people that I know, it isn't about the Muslims. If they want to be here, great. It's the fact that the radical terrorists are the ones coming in and trying to take over the land that they have destroyed for us. And, building a mosque on Ground Zero, I do not agree with at all. I look at it as solely a staple for them to say, hey, I took over this land.
Like a victory mosque? Is that the kind of thing? Okay.
That's how I look at it. I mean, I'm thinking, is this a Christian nation or not? Really, what it comes down to.
Well, so
I look at the other religions. Okay, we've had Jewish people for how long here? They don't say they want to kill us. They're not here. They haven't caused any problems. When I, was a child growing up, I didn't grow up with mosques around me.
Now you're in there in the Midwest, and there's a lot of Muslim population over there in Detroit, and I don't know how much in Chicago, but probably a lot. I mean, you've got the Reverend Farrakhan over there and whatnot. What is your experience in that area with the Muslim population and how they are?
Honestly, John, it's not getting better.
Wow.
We actually have a mosque, not more than 15 miles away from where I live.
Okay.
Yeah, and my biggest problem with it is that, when you see churches, you have these little churches, people go, usually it's a family thing, and they stick with one. When you have a mosque You know, you've created a huge mega church, this mega place of worship. And it takes over any little small town churches. It just dominates the entire area. And what scares me is that if they truly cared about 9/11 and, let's say, well, you know, like you and I grieve on this day.
Right.
We watch the documentary and we feel. If they really felt that, they wouldn't want to build a mosque on that, you know, special piece, like that place of land.
Well, I like
they
what
would
you
want to take that over.
Let me ask you a question here, a couple questions here. Now, I have a lot of Muslim friends, and we've said happy end of Ramadan yesterday to the folks out there, and I do believe that there's a lot of great people, and there's a big divide within the Islamic community between the Sunnis and the Shias and the Wahhabis and the whole 9 yards, just like any other religion. And we don't want to paint a broad brush here by any stretch. And it just, I mean, we're not at war with Islam. I disagree with some people out there. Unfortunately, there's some extremist Islamists that are at war with us with the terrorist situation. That's a different kind of thing. But I feel what you're saying, and I've said the same thing in our videos, which is, hey, I back anyone's constitutional right to say whatever they want, to do whatever they want with their personal property, all that kind of stuff. You can build a mosque outside of my house. You can build it at ground zero if you have the property to do it, whatever you want to do. But you're not going to get along with people if you do that. And if 70% of the people are against it, and obviously it's tied to ground zero here, and now with this Imam, Faisal has been saying on Larry King, like, hey, if we move it there, it almost seems like he was threatening violence, that the Muslim world's going to explode. It's like, whoa, what is this really about? And then you have President Obama who comes in there and basically makes it seem like, hey, if we don't want the mosque built there, that we're bigots, we need to respect religions. But then he goes out and says, hey, you can't burn a Qur'an to that pastor down there in Florida, and I thought I think they both are wrong in terms of, like, they're just inflammatory. They both have a right to do both of them. I've said that you can burn your Qur'an as long as you don't break any fire codes, whatever like that, rip it up or whatever you want to do, and you can build a mosque at ground zero or near it. But at the same time, if you do that, people are going to be upset, and it's obvious that they're going to be upset. But I think that I want to ask you this last question.
Sure.
Do you feel like there's a lot of people that feel like maybe, President Obama's not on their side, isn't on the American people's side, that isn't where their heart is at, especially on a day like today with 9/11 and remembering what happened there. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like President Obama is on our side? Do you feel like he's sympathetic to the sort of feelings and the ethos of most of Americans, or where do you come out on that?
I hate to say it, but I don't feel that he is as emotionally tied as most Americans are. And my belief goes back to the fact that he really wasn't raised, in America, in mainland USA, until he was in college. And, people say he was in Hawaii, he was here, he was there, traveling. I mean, I think it comes down to that fact that he just, he did not grow up as a child, in the same USA country that I did, that I have ties to, that my family does, that other families do. And I think once he stepped to college, he latched to all these liberal professors and, kind of ran with it in this whole socialist.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that real quickly. I don't know about his background. I don't really get into that or that whole situation. I do know that he said that he did some stuff over in Indonesia there when he was a kid, and I guess went to madrasa for a little bit. That's the extent that I know of it. He's born in Hawaii. But I don't really get into that. But you're saying he's not as connected. But what you said right there really struck a chord with me. I did political science undergrad at UC Berkeley, very, very liberal place, and then a law degree there at UC Berkeley School of Law. And I can just tell you, without naming names or getting specific, this and that, whatever, when Obama ran, I knew exactly what he was, and we came out, and it, because, we've said it early on in our videos, stuff like that, because I went to school and had professors that were like this guy. I knew exactly what he was. It's the blame America first crowd. It's the, hey, we love all the little socialists and leftists and this and that, kind of thing. And it's, hey, if we just did socialism or communism or left-wing or liberal policies right, the world would be a great place. Well, you know what? Everywhere it's tried, it's never worked. And now it was funny because I was having dinner the other night with I don't want to name names either, was from my relatives, and one of these guys was a PhD and whatever, and before Obama took office, after he was elected, this guy's going to be better than Lincoln, he's going to be better than Washington, he's the best thing ever, and I just had to just hold myself back from laughing and say, yeah, well, how'd it go now? I told you what we were going to get, and he had a hard time with it. Steph, you're fantastic, you're beautiful, thank you very much, call us back soon.
Thank you.
I love it. I mean, we want to hear from you people out there. 866-770-5556. This is the John D. Villarreal Show, and you're listening to the Conservative New Media Radio Network.